I'll tell you what, I've never enjoyed less a subject matter than the Epstein situation, because just when I'm getting confidence with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and come on, man, it's like, President Donald J. Trump. This is like the New York Yankees in their best year. This is murderers row for righteousness, peace and joy in the MAGA movement. And now all of a sudden we got this Epstein weird situation, which is just tearing the scab off of trust and sources. Pam Bondi's in the fire over this. And I want to do a deeper dive on it. So rather than doing a shorter broadcast, I'm going to go a little longer, because we have multiple sources within our movement that have opinions on this. And I want to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Where does Mossad, Israel possibly fit in, the CIA? Going to look at different scenarios. And all of our programs, by the way, that I do like this, the reason why I look for sponsors is I look for products that actually I believe in, that I can use, and that I myself take, because we have to pay for the ability to do this stuff. And this costs me. So I got my whole studio here. I got a crew running around, and we just basically cover anything. And you know what? We cover it boldly. We don't have to mince words. We don't have any kind of, I'll tell you the truth. A lot of people that are on network television, they have to stay within certain guidelines. You think they're really being radical, but they got stuff they can't say. Not so with me. I can say whatever I want to say. And that's the reason why, even with the water supply, I want to cover this real quick. One of our sponsors we have, I didn't realize plastic bottled water is putting plasticides in garbage. My kids were telling me all the junk that's coming with the plastic. I think about all the heated bottles of plastic that I'm drinking, chemicals, and I think I'm being healthy, glug, glug. Then I find out that water can actually be bad for you if it's the wrong kind of water, because it sucks the minerals out of your body. Chelsea's one of my health gurus. Let me see if I can get her. My young staff is constantly, Chelsea, explain to me real quick why water, I never thought about this, that water could be unhealthy.
Well, that's the purified water. So if you get that purified water that has literally no minerals, nothing in it, that dead water, there's like a couple brands out there. One of them starts with a D. It's like a blue. Ugh. Anyways, what happens is your water needs minerals. Like we think of spring water, ocean water. It's got minerals. It's got supplements. It's got things in it. It needs it to be alive. And so when you drink that purified water, it starts pulling your minerals out of your body.
Okay, so
it needs it, and then you just like.
So the solution you told me is clean up the garbage out of it, all the toxins, all the crap, all the chemicals, and the pharmaceuticals of human waste. But then you got to put minerals back in. And who's the people that do that?
Well, you want your water to be alive. So, for example, you could go buy those expensive glass spring water bottles. That's not exactly affordable long term. So the better solution is this water filter. You go to lancewallnau.com/water, and it cleans all the bad stuff out like a reverse osmosis, but then it puts all the wonderful minerals back in, your magnesium, your calcium, all the things that you need, so that when you drink your water, it's making you feel alive, making you feel better, and it helps your body.
All right. So, and what's the location again?
lancewallnau.com/water. Use the code Lance, save 10%.
Use the code Lance, save yourself 10%. And help me out as I'm drinking my fresh water. Listen, I am a practitioner of what I tell you. Notice there's no bubbles. You ever look at those weird stains and filters that are on the water glass after you pour it out? It's weird, right? Coated with calcium or something? Well, this is the solution. All right, let's get into today's episode. And do you know 1 minute is missing out of the Epstein videos? And then my son Carl, live on the show, tells me, that's not even the Epstein cell you're looking at, Dad. This is a wild show. You don't want to miss it. Let's go there now. I never talked about the Epstein thing. Everybody talks about it. Well, it's because I like to wait. I like to wait until the timing is right, because some things information's got to get out. Now we have something to work with. Article here on the Daily Caller, Dark Forces at Play, MAGA revolts over Trump DOJ Epstein findings. Between the amnesty winking or potentiality of what Donald Trump's trying to do to stabilize the farming and the hotel industry from needless casualties of war with his immigration policy, zeroing in on the 10 million that have come in during Biden's betrayal of the United States, we have this other issue which is also stirring up the MAGA base. Then, of course, you got Elon Musk talking about his third party. And it all plays to this root that we have in our country, which isn't altogether bad. We question authority. That's what made Donald Trump so popular to us. He was the outsider, the wrecking ball to the establishment authorities. And who knows? But if we can ever recover our confidence in pharmaceuticals that are going to advertise about whatever the next round of whatever vaccines is coming, thank God we've got Robert Kennedy there at this point saying he's going to check the validity of everything. So we're making progress. We've got Kash Patel and Dan Bongino over there at the FBI. And these guys we really have loved. But they have said in the past that they believe there's something suspicious about the whole Epstein thing. And we got the government bandits, or whatever that book was Kash Patel had, which is about, all the criminals that are in government. So we're happy that they are doing a really great job in going after criminals. But there's a bigger issue here, and it's an American issue of distrust of and justified distrust of government agencies, because we saw the FBI that legitimized, along with the CIA, the Russian hoax, along with the computer dossier and data we had on Hunter Biden, all covered up and lied over. So our distrust is at historic American levels with the institutions, which is why this story needs to be covered properly. Pam Bondi said that sitting on her desk, she had all the files. And then I'm glad I wasn't one of the influencers. I guess I could work my way into that group now. But, I'm glad I didn't come out with the influencers all showing up at the White House, holding up their binder, getting the exclusive story out, a real photo op moment that ended up being a nothing burger. And I think a little bit of an embarrassment for all the popular social media people. We've got the story first, like the little MAGA army of, bloggers and podcast people. And they find out they got nothing there. Well, let's see. I've got Liz Wheeler as an anchor on the One American News Network. She posed outside the White House in February, one of those binders. And on Monday, Wheeler told the Blaze's Glenn Beck that Bondi privately claimed the Southern District of New York was hiding additional Epstein-related files and alleged deep state cover-up. She said Bondi admitted she hadn't personally seen the documents, but that the Southern District of New York, it's a power group there. I mean, they were the ones who tried to take Trump down at one point. The Southern District of New York was hiding Epstein-related files. Do you guys have that? Do we have that picture? Or can you bring it up of Epstein in the classroom? Or is that, oh, there it is. Imagine being a math teacher for half your life and suddenly being given a $77 million mansion in New York City, along with a private jet and an island. My son Carl pointed out that he put his name on the board and spelled it Epstein, E-P-S-T-I-N-E, but it's hence been written as Epstein. Kind of a mystery with that incongruence there. But how does a guy become the $77 million mansion in New York City guy as a math teacher? Well, I guess it's the same way that Ocasio-Cortez got $22 million by being a barmaid in New York, and then suddenly she's in Congress and she got $22 million from somewhere. Somebody said, can we understand how you got that? She said, no, I have my rights for privacy like any other American. Curious answer. Benny Johnson, who's a former Daily Caller reporter with a massive following on X, he's very savvy with media. He says to say there are thousands of victims in a convicted sex trafficking ring and then to say there were no customers when the operation happened right before your eyes insults our intelligence. Trafficking women to no one? I don't buy it. And that's a good point. If you've got, here's the thing nobody's mentioning, and I don't know why they don't mention it. I knew something was rotten in Denmark when I realized that James Comey's daughter was heading up the government prosecution. Go back and rewind the tape. Nobody said this. Glenn Beck, go check it out. This would be a sizzle reel for you. That the government, the corrupt FBI under Comey, made sure that the prosecution didn't open up any can of worms that the government wants to cover up by controlling the prosecution with a very narrow focus to get Griswold basically behind bars. But what was she doing? She was running this recruitment ring for young women, but there has to be customers. And so why is it that not one customer who had sex with a 14-year-old has been prosecuted? That's the question. So here's a guy who's very popular on X who goes by the handle Cat Turd. Sorry, folks, I don't come up with these out of the ecclesia here. They come up with their own names. And so even who's just the quintessential Trump supporter, is freaking out. He says, so all the girls who have testified about being raped on Epstein's Island were lying? And Ghislaine Maxwell, I always get her name mixed up.
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine?
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for being the madam for nobody. Please tell this is fake news. All right, well, now you know who we've really grown to love is Carolyn Levitt. And I feel bad. This is a strange confession. But when people that are really good people have to do Washingtonian doublespeak and diversionary tactics, something which we don't like. We don't like it when the left does it, and we don't like it when our own people do it. Like when you're being called on to explain, hey, we got some problems with this story here. Don't run away with, let's talk about all the good work the FBI is doing. We've turned a record number of criminals, unlike the Biden administration, blah, 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 blah. Wait a second. You're doing a classic tactic here. You're pivoting to talking points rather than answering the question. But let's go here. We like her. By the way, someone pointed out she's not wearing her cross during this particular interview. I wonder if it's because she feels conflicted because she's got to fall on the sword here for a reason. We're going to talk about what the reasons are for misinformation, what the potential is, what the arguments are for the government being right and the government being wrong on this. So go ahead. Let's play what she says.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network, on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
All right, guys. So, and that's what I'm saying. That's what you call a pivot when you're in an interview, which is when you take what they say to you and then you go to your talking points and, oh, these guys are doing a great job. Yeah, but, you know, their credibility's on the line right now because, well, they're not even convincing. I mean, I think it's Bongino and Cash Patel are good guys. And I think they look a little conflicted. She looks a little conflicted. You ever see that TV show, Lie to Me? It's a great show. I wish they had another season on. It's where this guy's a forensic pathologist, investigator. Well, he studies facial responses in order to detect a lie. It's really neurolinguistic programming, you know, like when you're making something up, you look to the left, or I forget what it is. Carl, what is it? Do you remember? So when you're looking up to the right, are you trying to create something, and you look up to the left, you're trying to remember something? How does that go?
Yes and no. Broad strokes, sure, you're connecting with the creative side of your brain or the logical side of your brain where you're trying to recollect things, but that's kind of been disproven just because there are different ways that people learn how to process information. So sometimes if they're looking up to the left and then scanning to the right, they're actually scanning their mind to remember things if they're going from the right to the left.
The point that I'm making is that the guys that, when you go up, like when I go into a foreign country, and they're looking at how you answer the question, not even listening to your response. Like they're
listening to your tone, they're listening to your pace, they're listening to.
But I'm saying there is a. I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say that there's enough data to suggest that your eye pattern. For instance, if you're recalling what someone says, your eyes move to the left or to the right. You'll know that's auditory. So if you're high auditory, that means that when you're making a recollection, you scan left to right to hear things. I mean, just as a talking point, when I was with Kim Clement, and the guy had a remark, I shouldn't even go here now for most interviews, you think I'm nuts, but the guy was remarkably, in our community, he's very prophetic, and he would get information, and he wasn't working with an ear monitor like Peter Popoff. He was the real deal. And I every now and then I look, and his eye would go to the left, and he'd say, Dr. Bird. He'd hear the word Dr. Bird, and he'd talk to the person, who is that? And the person would say, well, that's my physician. He actually could hear stuff. What I'm saying is that when you're not telling the truth, there's certain tells, like in poker. And a lot of us are watching good people that don't look convincing, because I'm not sure they're convinced. So we're going to come back in a moment. I'm going to explain to you what the lies are based on Lie to Me, and what some of the theories are on the case. We'll be right back.
Clean, safe water. It's the foundation of a healthy home, but hidden contaminants could be putting your family at risk. That's why there's Sentry H2O, the smarter way to protect what matters most. It filters out what doesn't belong and restores what your body needs. Pure, mineral-rich water that tastes as fresh as it is clean. Because your family deserves more than just clean. They deserve water that supports their health. Go to lancewallnau.com/water and use code LANCE to save 10% on your water wellness system. That's lancewallnau.com/water, code LANCE.
And this is too big a story to cover in 12 minutes. I got to give you more. The background you got to catch is Axios, which is, here's how this works in the intelligence community. Comey leaked stuff to the New York Times. He leaked stuff here and there, never got prosecuted for it. But it was like, oh, Russian collusion. Oh, get the Mueller investigation going. Total setup, put Trump in the crosshairs. He's going after that now. It takes a while. The wheels of justice grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine, the saying goes. And so what the intelligence community does, the CIA is notorious for this. They plant stories in the media. That's why they have CIA analysts and former CIA, this and that. And they go on the talking tour, which is why Trump really crippled them when he cut off their access to government files and government sources. They probably get them from some other nefarious, sneaky source in the department that gets to them privately. But they're no longer authorities with information that can go on CNN, MSNBC, and tell you the inside story, because Trump cut off their government access, because basically they plant stories. Anyway, Axios was given the story, planted the story, and they were sent a memo. And the memo was supposedly from some source within the agency. I got to read to you. I read this blog by a guy named Coffee and COVID. I love this guy's writing. And he says something regarding Mrs. Levitt. His language is so witty. He said, Miss Levitt, I guess she's single, not married. Miss Levitt indulging in Orwellian Washingtonian doublespeak, which is rare for her. Mostly just regurgitated meaningless talking points from the memo itself. She didn't explain why the memo was leaked to Axios. So there's this memo. You got to catch this, and I'll get it in post. We'll put it up here for you. This memo became like somebody leaked it out in order to create the talking narrative that, hey, man, no client list here. We did a thorough investigation, like an internal memo. We really looked into this thing. So she didn't explain why the memo was leaked to Axios instead of being published in the Department of Justice website. She didn't explain why the memo looks different from all other normal Department of Justice memos, like it doesn't have any of the stamps or approvals. Also, why it's undated and unsigned and didn't include a name. And when the FBI does, and the Department of Justice does their footnotes, they're footnoted sources. In this case, there were links put in so that the media could use it. And of course, they're going to go into, so it's a ghost memo. Maybe Casper wrote it. But wait, it gets crazier. To set the table, can we all just agree with the major story? I hate to do this to everyone, but let's first examine how the Washington Post handled it. Now, the Washington Post, despite repeatedly referring to the strange DOJ memo and quoting it extensively, they never linked the source. They never quoted a source. There's no source for this memo. It just got put out there as propaganda. That's the point. And this memo, if you're going to be serious about discussing what happened, I know people all have their little theory tidbits, but that memo is really a smoking gun. Who planted it? Who wrote it? Because it's kind of like it's fog on the trail, right? So one of my people here on our crew said, "Hey, there's a minute missing in the footage." So they're playing the video footage of the cell, showing that the cell has been monitored. Nobody came in or left. Look, we have 24-hour monitoring. But I guess it's at 11:59 at night. They switch over the videos and take one and put one on. I don't know why. They have 60 seconds. Seems strange to me. I think I've got devices in my house that go 24 hours. They don't switch off and on. They're constant. Anyway, in this high-tech prison, there's always 1 minute at night from 11:59 to 12. So if you were going to go in there and kill Epstein, then you do it at 11:59. Go, boom. It's kind of like Mission Impossible. You got to go in there. Boom. I got a key. Got in there. Going to go in there. Boom, 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 boom. And I guess they got 1 minute to do this. Can it be done in a minute? I don't know. But the autopsy shows that for people that strangle themselves, it's usually asphyxiation, and the blood stops going to the brain, the oxygen, or you break your neck or something like that when you try to jump from a rope. But in this case, it was the windpipe, the Adam's apple that was crushed. That implies that there was malicious force that wasn't a strangulation by self means. And so the autopsy raises questions about the cause of death. But the administration did release this video, and they enhanced it for clarity, but they still don't have the 1 minute missing. And that's a big, to my group, that's a big what happened. And so Patrick Bet-David, you guys follow him a lot. All these people are becoming kind of like social media sensations. Bring it up. We got Patrick Bet-David. He is making this statement here. Shockingly, the DOJ and the FBI have officially determined there's no proof Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. You can read this, but for my podcast audience, I'm reading it for you. He didn't maintain a list of clients, nor did he blackmail high-profile individuals. This is a terrible look on the FBI and the DOJ because nobody believes it. Not his haters, not his supporters, not his diehard supporters, not even Ghislaine Maxwell. However, I have a ton of questions, but let's first start with the few possibilities. You guys want to go through this for a second? We got to cover this. I'm doing these short versions. Every now and then I got to do the long version. All right, here's the possibilities. Maybe they're right. Maybe Epstein did a strange and awkward strangulation, and he crushed his own Adam's apple in his attempt at killing himself, and maybe they found nothing, and the rest of the skeptics are all conspiracy theory kooks. Or maybe they know something. Possibility 2. Maybe they know something the rest of us don't know. Maybe there's a valid reason for their conclusion that we're not at the pay grade to know. Maybe voters should trust the president's decision making to see what the long-term outcomes are going to be. Or 3, maybe there's a ton of evidence of people being held hostage through blackmail that keeps the whole thing together. Maybe Mossad and the CIA collectively have a ton of evidence that can bring down some powerful people, and that's their way of keeping them in line. Whatever word you want to use, blackmail equals accountable equals hostage. This can be very useful when getting things done or getting countries to get in line. Or 4, maybe he was actively working with Mossad, which is the Israeli Secret Service intelligence agency, sending intel to them that empowered Israel to give them a certain backbone to push some of the most powerful people in the world, the same way the mafia did with J. Edgar Hoover in the early days of the FBI. I believe we should entertain all possibilities, but I have a few other questions. And I think it's worth reading this. This is our people. 1, if there was nothing to the recording found on Epstein, yet the FBI want to gain trust from the people, arrange from Maxwell for an interview with a lie detector. Now, this is a little bit like out of central casting. You know, you're going to get Megyn Kelly or Megyn Kelly type to go ask interview questions. And so Maxwell has the lie detector test there, and she gets her sentence split in half or a quarter and offered lifetime protection if she tells the truth about what's going on. So I think that's an interesting theory. 2, why did Pam Bondi act disturbed of what she claimed was found in those videos? Disturbed. See, if there's videos, then there's molestation happening of some form of deviant sexual activity with minors. So typically, it's like the Bible says, is that story about the woman caught in the act of adultery was brought before Jesus. And one commentator pointed out something I never thought. He said, if they're caught in the act of adultery, where's the guy? Why is it the woman? Why is it Maxwell who's out here? Where are the men who are actually involved with this? So the point in the Bible commentator was, it's typical if the woman was the one they'd stone, not the guy.
They're in the Senate. They're in the House. That's where.
And they might be. Carl, my son says they're in the Senate. They're in the House. So that's listen, that's what we're talking about. Choose any of the great independent podcasters. Why did Pam Bondi act disturbed? Why did Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, 2 men who were convinced of what really happened to Epstein, suddenly change their position? And they seem extremely uncomfortable when asked about the files. I mean, they say, I looked at the files. They're not very convincing. And Patrick here says they're just terrible liars, as is true. Good people make bad liars. I spent 3 hours with Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark. He came to my cigar lounge, and we did a 2-hour interview with him. A cigar lounge. That's interesting. He was in many of the issues we discussed, but when I asked about why Leon Black paid his brother, Jeffrey Epstein, $158 million in consulting fees for tax services, he brought up another name. If Musk, catch this, a man who specialized in blackmail, he brought up another name. A guy who specialized in blackmail? Dang. I want more information on that. Specialized in defending people who were being blackmailed, or specialized in setting up blackmail? If Musk is this confident about starting his own political party, did he get deep enough in the government, the 100 days or so, to find out for himself what happened to Epstein? I don't know about that. I don't think he was able to go there. But if there's an enemy of the administration today that's capable of that, it's Musk. It's not like FBI agents make much, so maybe there's a whistleblower that's going to show up in there. And then he goes on to close out, I trust his instincts and negotiating abilities. He's the only guy capable of dealing with all this chaos. So popular theory is that the CIA and the Israeli intelligence agency, Mossad, somehow were in on this thing. And it might be that, and I had some major evangelist friends of mine that texted me, Lance, the reason why the Epstein files never get out is because Mossad's behind it. But you see, that opens up a can of worms in itself, because I don't believe that the CIA and the FBI under Brennan and Clapper and Comey is the same CIA or FBI under Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Ratcliffe, etc. That doesn't mean, though, that there might not be reasons why, especially with the Iran and Israel conflict and the pro-Palestine. We are dealing with a demonic entity of this entangled apparatus of evil. it doesn't mean that there can't be bad actors in Mossad, like a Brennan or a Clapper or a Comey. I mean, the industry, it's not like, only in America do we get these bad actors. I think they exist in all the clandestine agencies of China and Russia. I think these are bad actors in there. So maybe it's true. It doesn't mean that, here's the problem. It leads so fast into an anti-Semitic spirit, which is, the Jews, Israel. Then you go, this guy washed the whole Jewish people and all of Israel. It's very easy to go there because I know people, if you don't have a biblical grounded worldview, like Tucker Carlson doesn't have, then, right away, why should we even be helping Israel? After all, they were involved with Mossad and they were involved with Epstein. Well, you got to do like a Solomon's dividing of spirit and soul right there and say, wouldn't it be beneficial to find out who the actors were and what happened, and that there could be a kind of a cleansing by getting that to the surface and dealing with what agencies in Mossad, what agents in Mossad were working with Epstein. And then it becomes incumbent upon Netanyahu and such to purge it out. Or they'll say, well, maybe he knows. Well, you see, so this is the direction things go into. And at some point, you create the sword in pursuit of truth that your enemy will use to thrust through you. So then you give fodder to the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish conglomeration that's even in MAGA. We got people that hate Jews. I hate to say it. We got Christians that don't like Israel, which is a weird pathology. But you can see where this goes. But such is the nature of unraveling the demonic underbelly of this, that if you don't go in and get facts, then you feel like you just can't put a bow on it and say, we've looked at the report, there's nothing there. I think, but then did anybody expect anything to come out of the Kennedy files? I mean, did anyone really expect? I guess it was naive of us to go, now we're finally going to see who killed. Well, I think if the CIA is anywhere implicated, they've already done their homework in manipulating the files, deleting, destroying, and rabbit trailing you off. So all that I'm saying is I share with people their lack of confidence that the story has been told because there is no prosecution of anyone participating in the trips. And if they've got the videos, they should have the blackmail material. And I think until someone is prosecuted, then you can't close this thing off. The risk is the moment one person comes out, well, they might just flip and say, in exchange for my protection, I'm going to expose stuff that the government now has been lying about. Well, you pray for truth. You pray for things to surface. And it might be that, this could be a, like what do they call it, diuretic? You might need to have this pill because the MAGA base is not sold on the fact that Epstein killed himself. They know that 1 minute of missing video is somehow there. And I don't think they're ever going to have peace until there is prosecutions for participants. And like I said, why was Comey's daughter leading the prosecution? I think to make sure that this wasn't the track things went on. But it may very well be the only track, along with a lie detector test, like Patrick says, that could possibly give peace of mind to the movement. And this issue isn't going away. I fear that it's going to become an abscess within the confidence of the MAGA movement on trusting that the corruption in government we know is there is really being dealt with. Well, that's my thoughts. We went a little extra today. You can certainly, I'm reading your comments. I'm interested in what you have to say. And I haven't given you resolution, but I've given you all the aspects of this that explain why it's a ticking time bomb and all the good that Dan Bongino and the FBI is doing. And no doubt they're doing a great deal more effectively now than ever before. It's being obscured and eclipsed by the issue of you need to really explain the autopsy report better. Find that 1 minute footage. We need to see it and know that it's actually the minute that's missing. We got to have that minute missing. We got to find it. We got to see it.
Can we also get the footage of the actual area? Because that's not the footage of his cell. That's Caddy Corner. And also, they've changed their story multiple times. So,
are you saying that the footage of the cell is not what you're seeing in the video? Or are you saying?
Yeah, you're not seeing Epstein's cell. You're seeing an area of like a common area where you can access his cell, but even then, the area to access his cell isn't in the footage. So,
So the illusion is you're looking at a door there and you think that's his cell, but it's not.
It's not. And also their story has changed multiple times over the course of this thing coming out, where they were like, well, he never left his room. And then a month or so ago, they're like, okay, so he left his room for a little while. It was a private call. He wasn't supposed to do that, but he was afforded that opportunity anyway. The whole thing is just despicable. Anybody who continues to trust the CIA or the FBI, dips.
Huh. Well, there we have it. That's pretty much what my people are telling me. Anyway, so the point is nobody believes it, and I don't think this is going to go away, but it matters because President Trump's administration is our, let's say, our hope that we can actually deal with the corruption at a level that we could trust again in the institutions, and it isn't helped by this chapter. And it just leads to the conspiracy theory that the intelligence community indeed is covering their trails, and that until there's prosecutions and we get a client, the client list doesn't exist. Well, just identify the clients and you've got your list. Anyway, we're going to end right here. Do like and subscribe and share this because most people don't discuss these things. And I'm just giving you my take, and I'm going to cover more of it. Because I don't think this story is going to go away, but I'm curious about how the blackmail business works. And there's a possibility they're telling the truth, but they haven't made the case, and that case has to be made. Please like and subscribe and give us your comments. I look forward to being back with you, and I hope the extra long edition here is a blessing to you. Let me pray for you before we go, and let's pray for this. You know, the only thing we do that is totally different than other kinds of podcasting is we actually believe God, and we believe God's in the midst of doing an awakening in America. So, Father, we lift up to you our institutions and our leadership. And, Lord, we ask you in your mercy and in your grace to bring to the surface the truth that will cause healing in America, that will expose and do an exorcism on the darkness and the pockets of corruption and compromise that are within the bowels of our own systems of governance, especially in the intelligence community. Lord, ferret out the next layer of bad apples and bad actors in the FBI and all aspects of the intelligence community. Somehow, Lord, you could do this. And as you do this, Lord, I think you're leading us into a third great awakening, even stronger, for the deliverance that will come. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, that's assuming that we need to have that happen. I think you could all agree with me. It needs to happen, whether it's the Epstein situation or something else. We've got to purge the system of the manipulative, corrupt entities. And by the way, that includes the media, which propagandizes and does the work for the intelligence community. That should be exposed too. We'll see you again on our next episode. God bless. I wanted to take a minute to talk about one of my great heroes of the faith, which is Mike Lindell. What's really cool about Mike is it's not just the pillow. It's the fact that the guy makes really cool products. For instance, I start my day off with my coffee. I had a cup of coffee the other day here in the office, and I said, no, I want that. It wasn't like Starbucks. It tastes better. And it was Mike's coffee. I said, what is it? They go, Mike Lindell's coffee. I said, my gosh, get a bunch of my coffees. Now, the best way to start the day is you put on these slippers, right? And have your My Coffee. If you've not worked with these slippers yet, I'm not kidding you. There's a special kind of a design that Mike has put into these with 4 layers of cushion with a solid sole and a fur interior. I call it my sip and slip strategy. I start my day off by slipping on my slippers and having a sip of Mike's coffee. But you know what else I'm curious about now? Because I've got to check out the 2.0 pillow. The 2.0 pillow actually is designed so that it distributes the heat of your own head, your face. You know, you're lying there, and it makes it so the pillow's always cool. Now, I like that because I wake up in the middle of the night and have to flip over my pillow because it gets hot. Mike's solved that problem. I want you to go to mypillow.com, promo code Lance, because you can get a discount that I've set up for the pillows, for the coffee. and for the slippers. And do it today. You'll be happy.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your